All right, there is the cap space available to teams this year, even with the reduction from 198.2 down to 182.5. Plenty of teams with plenty of space. The question is, who will splurge? Who will spend? We know the Patriots won't. That would be highly out of character. The Colts, it's out of character for them, too. They don't jump into it with both feet right away. They did last year do the trade and the big contract for DeForest Buckner, but they typically don't go chase big-name free agents who make it through to the open market. I'm fascinated, Chris, by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Urban Meyer, his first year in the NFL, a lot of money to spend, a team that's trying to inject excitement and will it. It's like it wants to will itself into becoming a contender in one of the lesser divisions in football. You just have to wonder, do they have a plan that consists of going out there and consciously spending? Could that be a Shaq Barrett destination as they try to rebuild a defense that was championship caliber 3 years ago, but has gradually been decimated?
Well, I mean, we saw, some commitment as the franchise left tackle, right? Cam Robinson, they do that, so they keep him. But I would think, yes, I mean, if you want to get the Trevor Lawrence, Urban Meyer era underway in a positive fashion and create some excitement, and then more importantly, like we've talked about it many times, where we've seen some teams really succeed and some teams really have issues with this, you get a young quarterback, put the support around him. Start going all in on that to make sure you justify your number one pick in the NFL draft. That smooths over a lot of nonsense that can be talked about in the media when your team doesn't do well and things like that. So I'm with you. Jacksonville is going to be interesting. Of course, the Jets are going to be interesting too with all the money they have to spend. The Patriots, you mentioned them. It's week 2 and week 3 when free agency starts for them. I'll say this. You look at the Colts. What the Colts, you look at their football team and go, what else do we need? They're kind of up with depth. Is this the year Ballard makes some splash moves? They got DeForest Buckner.
No. I don't think they will.
I know, but I wonder, going back to your pass rush thing a little bit that we talked about, last segment. Maybe they're one of the teams that go out there and try to get one of these guys to, not a huge, gigantic contract, but somebody to come off the edge. They had issues getting to the quarterback with just their front four last year. Buckner got there. He was annoying, but everybody else was just okay. And that, to me, when I look at them and go, whoa, all right, they got a Carson Wentz. They're in the Super Bowl window. And you just go, they need a pass rushing difference maker up front. And maybe that left tackle for Anthony Costanzo, right? Other than that, so where maybe they do make some splash moves here this year, Mike. I know it's not usually Ballard's thing.
Or bargain shop for pass rushers because there's just so many of them. And both of their guys, both of their starters from last year on that list I read earlier, Danico Autry and Justin Houston. So they definitely have needs at the position, but there are plenty of guys out there. Peter King has a look at some of the big contracts that have been given out in recent years, and typically it doesn't work. Typically it's not a great football move. It can be a great business move, and let's face it, there are mandatory spending requirements. There's a certain amount of cap space you have to use, and there is a motivation from a business perspective to create excitement, to get season ticket renewals, to create the impression you're trying to win a Super Bowl. Every team says every year our goal is to win the Super Bowl because they have to say that because they need to have the fan base engaged, and that's what every fan base wants. They don't just want a playoff appearance. They want the whole thing. So you've got to do that sometimes, and I think there can be a disconnect in some organizations between what's good for football and what's good for business. And the teams that have the best and most functional football operation are the ones who ignore the temptation, the pressure, the urging of the business people to go out and play fantasy football.
Yeah.
But with 32 NFL teams, Chris, there's always going to be somebody who plays fantasy football. Whether it's the Jaguars this year or some other team, we're going to see it. There's going to be a handful of guys, maybe not as many as usual, but a handful of guys that make a ton of money on the first day. By the time we do this tomorrow morning, what's the over-under? 4.5. 4.5 guys who are going to have contracts that we say, wow, 4.5. You taking the over, you taking the under?
Well, that was literally going to be my next question to you, because that's where I am fascinated by about what we might see here. Is this going to be a year where there's less splash signings? and teams kind of sit back and wait and kind of get a feel for the market a little bit with, the reduced salary cap and some of those type of issues. Like, I'll take the over of 4.5, but I don't think it's much past that. What do we see usually? I feel like last year we saw a lot more than 4.5, right? I mean, it seemed like last year it was like it was a whirlwind of things, right? Yeah, bam, I'm 2 for 2 in the last month. But yeah,
explosivity,
a whirlwind of things there. Like as far as what we saw in free agent signings and everything like that. So I don't know, Mike. What's your pasta and meatballs gut tell you? What do you think?
Peter King and I were talking about this over the weekend. I think he makes this point in Football Morning in America. 27 guys were
last year
under contract or had agreed to terms the first day last year. So I think it's going to be less than 10, more than 5. Peter targets 6 guys that he thinks will get good money this week, not necessarily this day. Dalvin Tomlinson, the Giants defensive tackle. Yep. Shaq Barrett, guy we've talked about. Lions receiver Kenny Golladay. Steelers receiver Juju Smith-Schuster. Trent Williams, who we've talked about. Joe Thuney, the Patriots guard who was franchise tagged last year.
No doubt.
And Titans tight end Jonnu Smith. Those are the 6 names that Peter King identifies. 7 names. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 names that he's identified as guys who could get good money this week. So I'll go over 4.5, but not by much. Less than 10, more than 5. That's what I'm going.
Yeah, would agree, though. Those are some names that I discussed on my podcast recently, too. And, yeah, Dalvin Tomlinson's one of those guys where most people, like the really common casual fan might go, what? But he is the best interior run stopper, run stuffer, double teams, all those type of things. He's going to be one of those guys this week, I think, that like signs as a defensive tackle somewhere, and everybody's going to go, or a lot of people are going to go, wait, who? He got what? How much money? The Giants, I don't think, can keep him. They got a lot of big people, and yeah, he's one of those guys that can help out a run defense in big ways.
Also, don't rule out the possibility of trades today. Last year on this day, the first day of the legal tampering period, there were 3, headlined by the move that signaled the beginning and the end for the Houston Texans, the decision to trade DeAndre Hopkins to the Cardinals, because you want to get these deals done, because if you're not going to fill your needs with a trade, you're going to fill your needs in free agency. So trades can and likely will happen today. We saw a couple yesterday. Marcus Cannon from the Patriots to the Texans.
Right.
Shaq Lawson and Bernardrick McKinney, a couple of linebackers, flip-flop by the Texans and the Dolphins. Not the Texans-Dolphins trade that
we all want to see.
Hoping for, but who knows? Maybe that could happen. Hey, we're here. We're here to serve the interest and the needs of the NFL consumer. You never know what's going to happen.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.